Willmore Wilderness is really an untamed and unspoiled part of the country. This is what's to be intrinsic Canadian park, a park where you have mountains and rivers and glaciers, and wildlife, grizzly bears, and it's just amazing that a place like Willmore exists.
The Willmore can be described in a lot of different ways. Awesome, spectacular. You could spend your lifetime in here looking at different parts of it. You know, if you want to go someplace and see the mountains the way they have always been without a lot of other people, this is definitely the place to come.
You can be like an explorer. You can go out there, you can choose your valley. And when you've explored that one, right next to it, there's another one, every bit as exciting. And you could do this for years.
One of the unique things about Willmore Wilderness Park is that it has its own Parks Act, the Willmore Wilderness Act. Willmore was to be a place simply accessible by foot or either by horse. So even today, decades later, we don't have vehicle access, no roads, highways, that sort of thing. And that really is intrinsic to the character of this park.
I mean, there's lots of places in the mountains where you can build stuff. And you can go to Banff, you can go to Jasper, but you're going to turn this place into Banff or Jasper if you build stuff. I mean, it's Willmore Wilderness because it's wilderness.
So you don't get the bus loads of tourists coming in and going to hotels and golf courses and restaurants and those sorts of things. It's difficult to access, and yet that is a big part of its charm.
It's a wilderness feeling. Seeing bighorns that aren't tamed by the roadside with a whole bunch of cars pulled over taking pictures of them, and it's meeting the occasional grizzly bear, which is a wonderful thing because these are wild grizzlies, so they're not habituated to people, they run. Basically, you're out in pure wilderness.
The terrain here is probably the best horse country that you can get for maintaining a horse while you're on your trip, and the valleys are big and they're wide and they're open, so people enjoy riding up these valleys and looking at the viewscapes.
It's kind of neat to be a part of the tradition and be out here and do this kind of thing. And yeah, I've been out here a lot, and I spend a lot of time, and I spend every summer in the mountains. I've been to a lot of places in here and in Jasper Park, but the Willmore is my favorite place to go still. It's in the blood, and it's just a natural thing, packing horses and saddling horses, and it's one thing I can say I can do and not have trouble doing it, because I've been taught by two of the best people in the business.
When you're in the Willmore, you have immersed yourself in an environment that is totally natural. And you are part of that natural rhythm while you are in the Willmore. And the more you get into that natural rhythm, the more that experience will give back to you. The Willmore Experience is a step back in time, both in methods of travel and accommodation, and also in mindset.
After a while, the only thing that matters is grass, firewood, and water. And you get into that rhythm of the Willmore. You get into that moving with the land, with what is there. It's like time travel, because we know it's like it was 200, 300, 400 years ago.
So, you know, you're using wall tents, you're cooking on wood, you're not fighting the land to move through it, you have to move in the rhythm of the land. And for our society, who wants instant gratification, it can be a real adjustment for a traveler on the land. But once they get into that old rhythm, that old style of traveling, it reconnects to something that I think is inside of all of us.
As you're making some kind of physical excursion, if you're working with horses or you're working with your own feet, you're there, that's what you're doing. You don't really have time for your mind to be back at that workplace that you'd like to leave for a few weeks. Your urban armor just drops off, you know, and the place comes in. And if you stay here a week, somewhere around day 3, you start living here. And it's a physical reality. The hardness of the place and the pleasure of the place kind of mix in. And all that stuff out there gets dumped.
We call it becoming unplugged. You step away from civilization and you can see inside yourself perhaps a little bit better.
I would say most of the ridges I've been on here and most of the hikes, I've never encountered anybody. No horses, no hikers. Zero. In fact, at first I called this, my first few years, walking in the sky country, because it felt to me like every day of that trip we were up in the sky.
When we're hiking down a trail, even in Willmore Wilderness on the main trail, you don't see anybody, very rarely. And if you get off on any of the side trails that we typically do, you don't run into anybody. And it's so different, it's such a different experience because you can feel nature.
It's magic, it's wild, it's beautiful, it's accessible. It's a spiritual experience being here. And I don't mean in a religious sense, but you just get away from 100 emails a day and come back to a place that's the same way it was 200 years ago, and that I hope is going to be the same 200 years from now.
Willmore Wilderness offers a fantastic Rocky Mountain experience, and there are very few places still left where people can have that experience, where you can go in responsibly and do some low-impact camping and enjoy a place that is just beyond words to describe.
The Willmore Experience to me is a chance to explore a huge area that goes back in time, that hasn't changed very much. There's all kinds of inspiration for drawing, painting, photographs. It's unlimited, and nature's still our best teacher. Willmore is Alberta's best kept secret, I figured.
That serenity, that peacefulness, that spirit you find of renewal, and it fills you up, that is just inestimable value to me. I've been playing in the Willmore for 30 years plus, and it has never diminished, it's only grown.
When I'm skiing or snowshoeing or hiking or horseback riding through Willmore Wilderness, what I feel is peace.
The Willmore, to me, has a very positive effect on the whole person's body, mind and spirit. It's absolutely a soulful experience to spend time there. The effect of the Willmore on my psyche has been profound. It has put me in love with the wilderness as never before, in nature, really. And that love will never diminish. If I died tomorrow, I think, and look back, I would think, the highlights of my life were all in the Willmore.
I'm very optimistic about where the Willmore is going, and I believe that when I pass from this planet, the Willmore will still be wild. And I hope it's still wild when my grandkids and great-grandkids are here.